Trump official humiliates CNN host over, let's say, wild questions on the deportation orders, guys. This is a suggestion via Discord. Let's jump into it. Let's see where this takes us immediately.
Does that mean that the administration is ignoring this order, and might you ignore future court orders that meet the criteria you laid out?
That was a late order.
The President of the United States and his administration reserve all rights under the Constitution to conduct national security operations in defense of the United States. The Alien Enemies Act, which was passed into law by the founding generation of this country, men like John Adams, was written explicitly to give the president the authority to repel an alien invasion of the United States. That is not something that a district court judge has any authority whatsoever to interfere with, to enjoin, to restrict, or to restrain any way. You can read the law yourself. There's not one clause in that law that makes it subject to judicial review, let alone district court review.
All right, so here's the thing, guys. When I heard that this was actually going to be happening, I was like, I don't know how this is going to work unless you immediately declare war against the countries that of the people, basically, that are coming into the United States of America. If you do that, then I do think that the Alien Sedition Act itself may actually fall on, you could probably utilize it in some manner here, guys, right? But it's definitely a slippery slope. So I definitely expected judges, lawyers, everyone to basically come out of the woodwork because depending on how you read it, it could definitely mean different things, all right? That's the reality of that Alien Enemies Act, guys.
A law that makes it subject to judicial review, let alone district court review.
So, Stephen, when you say that this person has no authority at all, this is how our system works. It starts with these judges and then continues up. At what point does it become, in your view, legal for the justice system to be looking at this and making a judgment? And I fail to see how there's any other way but to start with where we're starting here before you get to eventually the Supreme Court.
Well, so first of all, there's a term in law, justiciable. This is not justiciable. In other words, this is not subject to judicial remedy. When the president is exercising his Article 2 powers to defend the country against an invasion or to repel a foreign terrorist that is unlawfully in the country, he's exercising his core Article 2 powers as commander-in-chief.
Is Venezuela invading the U.S.?
This is a very important point. This is a Title 50 authority. It's a commander-in-chief authority. So just to ask you a simple question, you talk about how the system works. Does a district court judge have the right to direct or enjoin troop movements overseas? Yes or no?
Well, Stephen, my question, if you could answer my question first.
In other words,
is Venezuela invading our country in a way that would apply this way?
So I'll answer yours and you'll answer mine. Under the terms of the statute,
let's do it.
Tren de Aragua is an alien enemy force that has come here as detailed at length in the proclamation at the direction of the Venezuelan government. The statute says that a president has the ability to repel an invasion or predatory incursion that is directed by a foreign
state
government.
or a government, right? Are they a state or a government?
This would be. Yes, it is. It is documented. The TDA was sent by.
Guys, remember I told you about that slippery slope? Like I knew this was going to happen when Trump basically said he was going to attempt to utilize it. Like these 1798 law that was basically created for the quasi-French war. We were at war with France, guys. We needed to basically pack up the people that were here and that were feeling like sympathy type of thing. If you were not with us, you were against us. That type of thing. And so I knew that this was going to be a slippery slope. The same thing was also used during WW2 specifically. And so it's just going to be tricky, guys, right? But let's see where this takes us.
By the Venezuelan government in the proclamation. And here's an even more important point. Under the Constitution, who makes that determination? A district court judge elected by no one or the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy? The president and the president alone makes a decision of what triggers that determination.
So do you then think we are actually at war with Venezuela, the nation state of Venezuela?
You're not hearing me and you're not understanding me.
No, we understand.
Read the statute. Alien Enemies Act, 1798. It says if a predatory incursion is perpetrated by a foreign government, so it lists three qualifying actions. It could be an act of war.
It does say in the very beginning there has to be a declared war against a nation or a
declared
state.
war.
That's what it says.
No.
It's a wartime law, guys. Listen, I get you, bro. I hear you. I'm not specifically opposed to its usage in this context to get to specifically expedite these gang members specifically out of the United States of America. Maybe we need to find something else, because when I heard that this was happening, I was just like, ugh. So let's see where this goes. Again, I'm definitely in the middle, but I'm definitely glad it's being used. That's how it is. But also keep this in mind. We can almost guarantee that this is going to be used against conservatives when they're not in office. I just want you to know we don't need to continue setting precedents, guys. But let's continue.
At the very beginning, there has to be a declared war against a nation or a state. That's what it says.
No, wrong.
It doesn't?
Look up the statute. It's on my account on social media.
That's actually where we
Everyone
found
can
it
go see
earlier.
Yes, it says or a predatory incursion or an invasion. The statute delineates three criteria for triggering the Alien Enemies Act. One is an act of war.
Okay.
Which, by the way, an invasion is an act of war, but put that aside. One is an invasion, which this is. One is a predatory incursion, which this is. So it actually meets all three statutory criteria. But with respect to this particular statute, the proclamation is utilizing the incursion and invasion language in the statute. But this is a very important question, because no, hold on. It's a very important question. You said the way our system works is the President of the United States commands the armed forces of the country, commands the foreign policy of the country, and that's subject to district court review. That is fundamentally untrue.
I never said that, Stephen. I did not say...
That has never been true.
This was not a military operation.
A district court judge can no more enjoin the expulsion of foreign terrorists to foreign soil, that he can direct the movement of Air Force One, that he can direct the movement of an aircraft carrier, that he can direct Marco Rubio to engage in diplomacy in a country or not. Do you think the Supreme Court has any say over this or not? Does the Supreme Court of the United States have any say over the things that you were just outlining right here? I believe what the Supreme Court will say is what I just said, which is that the president's conduct here is not subject to judicial review.
Okay, but you are acknowledging that they do, in fact, have a say here, even though you think they may agree with you.
What we are expecting is the Supreme Court to say what has always been the case, which is when the president is using his powers as commander-in-chief, those determinations are not subject to judicial review. In other words, the president's designation of Tren de Aragua as a foreign terrorist organization, and
that was the play from the beginning. Also the reason why he labeled the let's say the cartel as a group of terror, let's say, right? So he could basically utilize some of these things to kind of get these individuals out of the country. Also, most likely why he started sending troops to our southern border, but then obviously Mexico sees this, and then they say, we're going to go ahead and send another 5,000, 10,000 federales up there just to make sure you guys don't step over the border, right? So everything kind of feels like they're setting up for something. So let's just obviously see where all of this goes.
And as an alien
but it feels like they're setting up for something.
Part of his inherent plenary authority. There is no way.
At what point in the system, Stephen,
how are you going to expel? Hold on. How are you going to expel illegal alien invaders from our country who are little girls, who are murdering little girls, if each and every deportation has to be adjudicated in a district court judge? That means you have no country. It means you have no sovereignty. It means you have no future. It is fundamentally incompatible to have a country and have individual expulsions adjudicated by a single district court judge.
I'm just trying to figure out at what point in the system.
That would literally take forever. That's not something that I would back at all. We need some type of umbrella that could basically be used similar to the umbrella, let's say, that was used to have them get them into the country, right? Via some asylum fraud. They use that umbrella. We need to have some type of umbrella to basically get them out immediately.
It's
fair.
What does the Trump administration believe? Because we do have separation of powers in this country. I hear what you're saying.
Yes,
you're saying the
separation
district
of powers.
court does not
This is the judiciary
have authority.
interfering
Stephen,
in
let me finish.
the executive function.
That
is the separation of powers. That is the separation of powers.
Did you ignore the judge's order here because you thought you could?
So the judge's order and the actions taken by the Departments of Defense, Justice, and Homeland Security are not in conflict. And the Department of Justice has been clear that they are not in conflict. But
so you think that you did go along with the order that the judge put out? You do not think that the Trump administration defied this order?
As the Justice Department said, there is no conflict between the judge's order and the actions taken by the departments I just listed. But I'm making a deeper and more fundamental point.
Yeah.
The district court
if you don't have
no
to follow
ability.
it, why didn't you?
the district court has no ability to in any way restrain the president's authorities under the Alien Enemies Act or his ability to conduct the foreign affairs of the United States. Let me paint a picture for you. President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio had engaged in intensive diplomacy to obtain a bilateral security agreement with the nation of El Salvador. If a district court judge can enjoin that bilateral security agreement, then we do not have a democracy.
Stephen, you've made your argument.
We do not have a foreign policy.
We've heard you say this. Did you ignore, did the administration ignore the order from the district judge? It's a simple question.
I've answered it. I've answered it because the Department of Justice has made a filing in the court. But let me make another point. The judge in this case put the lives of every single person on those aircraft at risk. Did he know how much fuel was in those planes? Did he know the flight conditions? Did he know the weather conditions? Did he know how many crew hours? Did he know the need for crew rest? Did he know any of that? No. This judge violated the law. He violated the Constitution.
So do you
defied
think that the
system of government that we have in this country.
Okay. That does seem to be what you're arguing
These same district court judges didn't do a damn thing to stop Joe Biden from flooding this nation with millions of illegal aliens.
No,
these district court judges didn't issue any injunctions to save the lives of Jocelyn Hungary or Laken Riley or anyone
federal
else.
Courts. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that what you said, there's a separation of powers. The judiciary exercises judgment and relief.
I don't speak for the White House. You are here to speak You're here to speak for the White House. I just want you to answer that one simple question.
I am. Ready? Here we go.
Go ahead.
Under a proper reading of the Constitution, district court judges provide relief to individual plaintiffs seeking relief. District court judges do not have the authority, as a general matter, to enjoin the functioning of the executive branch. But their authority is at its lowest point when the president is exercising his powers as commander-in-chief. And I asked you a question, you never answered it. Can a judge enjoin troop movements overseas? Can a district court judge enjoin troop movements overseas?
No.
Stephen,
yes or no?
I am not going to get into the
just say no.
Just say no.
This is a separate question,
and you'll know that I'm right.
Okay, we're not talking about other
No.
President.
I need to ask you about something else.
The president issued a proclamation delineating in detail how the Venezuelan regime sent this gang, this terrorist organization, to our shores. And by the way, and I love being here, but all the outrage that we are seeing from the Democrat Party and from the corporate media, none of that outrage was expressed when little Jocelyn Hungary was tortured and to death. None of that outrage was expressed when our nation was flooded by illegal aliens.
I have just been simply trying to get a simple...
Listen, they both have their points, but I think they're so far on the opposite sides of things that I'm not even sure they could even meet in the middle any longer, guys. She's making points that are valid. He's making points that are valid. They both are making valid points, but I'm not even sure that they're even hearing themselves. It almost seems like she's waiting for him to stop talking, not listening to anything he's saying at all, right? But she's waiting for him to stop talking so she can start talking, and literally the same exact thing is happening, right? So this is an interesting debate for sure.
Simple answer to a simple question. No outrage necessary about whether or not the White House is ahead of the court.
But I am.
But I need to ask you one more question. I'm going to have to let you go.
Democrats defending Trinidad instead of celebrating President Trump expelling these terrorists from our midst. And I'm glad for the opportunity to explain how the separation of powers does work. If the president has to litigate every national security action with 700 district court judges, then we don't have a functioning democracy.
Let me ask you one other question about the president's power today. It's on a slightly different topic, but we saw President Trump's comments about the use of the Autopen, the pardons that President Biden signed. And I just want to know from you, has President Trump ever used an Autopen to sign official documents, either in his first term or since he took office a second time?
Well, I've seen President Trump hand sign every executive order my whole time, and every part.
Have you ever seen him use an Autopen?
For him. But President Trump signs every single critical government function document. But here's the more important point about that.
He didn't answer that question at all.
Every single critical government function document. But here's the more important point about that, even more important.
Every single one?
The more important point is that President Trump personally directs every single federal government policy.
Right, but has he ever signed anything with an Autopen?
To my knowledge, every single executive order, every single proclamation, every single major government action, every single thing that affects the lives, safety, and livelihoods of the American people that comes out of the executive office of the president, he has signed. But more importantly, he has directed,
signed without
he
the
has
Autopen.
briefed, he has been involved.
How would he
and
know
this is the most important point.
that?
It's not just that Joe Biden used the Autopen. It's that he didn't know it. He was not briefed on it. He was not aware of it. He did not approve it. He was not mentally aware of what the government was doing.
If we're talking about the legality of something signed with an Autopen or not, I'm just trying to figure out.
Okay, guys, I was trying to see what was happening at the end here. All right, so listen, the problem is that this guy does not know every single time that he's ever signed anything, but yet he also did say he signed every single thing that was important, basically leaving it up to my imagination to believe that maybe something that was lesser, wasn't as important, let's say, was most likely potentially signed with this device here, guys. Okay. Now, in terms of the Alien Enemies Act, guys, I kind of want to bring this back here. This information is great, but as I expected, again, I kind of want to point that I have to set it home here. It is very gray. All right. Like, this is in fact like a zombie law. It is old. It is antiquated. This was before everything, basically 1798, guys. All right, so there are a couple of things that would have probably made more sense back then. I do kind of wish that something like this could probably be created again, potentially. Right? Like, do something like this again, but specifically for the concept of like removing people from the country, right? But in fact, if you're going to call them an invading force, and I do think that we should probably, by all definitions, get into some type of kerfuffle then, let's say, at least on paper, with Venezuela. If that's the case, if you were going to go directly after them, then I think you should probably have to do A, B, and C, not just specifically B and C. Right. But either way, guys, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly.